pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pray with me, please. We come to you so thankful for the many blessings you've given us in this life. Lord, thank you for this country that we live in and this community that we serve. Lord, please be with each and every board member here tonight. Give us wisdom as we make decisions. May we always act in the best interest of the students and the faculty. We ask you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Next item is call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Note that we do have a quorum present, and the agenda was posted in a timely fashion. Next item is recognition of students of the month. In the conference room, the board will come to the front.
Beach all the time. That's right. All right, I'm going to flip it up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and start cards. I got a couple that need to be places. So with Students of the Month, mine's really going to be more Citizen of the Year is the award that we came up with. I promised that I would not embarrass them too much, so I told them that I would keep it short and sweet. My first person is going to be 6th grader Layla Eller. Her friends and her teachers wanted to give her basically a description of kind of the person that she is and what has got her to get to be Citizen of the Year. Quiet, humble, and always honest. So, very good. I'm very proud of that. All right, 7th grader Rex Foster. Of course, smart, but what we also know now is hardworking and always courteous to others. 8th grader Emily Pemberton. Helpful, kind, and always responsible. She's taking care of everybody in the class. I noticed that today too. You need to get this done. It was kind of cool to watch. Miss 9th grader, Miss Anna Jo Briggs. Not going to be able to make it, so she was blessed to have somebody bring her up. Witty, a lot of things that people don't know, is very talented. She does a lot of plays at the Silver Moon, and that she is always sweet. 10th grader Mackenzie Bishop. Friendly, funny, and always caring. Always treats others very well. We're very excited to have her for 2 more years. 11th grader, or junior, Brooklyn Henderson. And helper. One of Brooklyn's things is, and mind you, this is coming from her peers as much as anything. A lot of her peers were the ones that said this, that she, not only is she strong, but strong emotionally and brave, because she's always willing to go out on a limb, and then she's always outgoing. So very proud of her for that. We had 2 seniors, Jaden Sanders and Janie Reed, and I believe Janie couldn't make it because she had to go watch her little brother's game, which is it was her first time to get to watch him play. So she's been playing ball all year. So these 2 ladies, Janie Reed was sweet, hard worker, and generous, and then Jaden Sanders, dependable, trustworthy, and always caring and kind. So, all right.
Congratulations. Yes, you did. Congratulations.
And like I said, we did this for a whole year, so it's kind of like best congratulations. We're very proud.
Congratulations.
Good job. Thank you.
Very tired, man.
I know it. Look at you guys.
Proud of you. Thank you, guys.
Miss Howell, come on up. You brought your crowd.
Yes, the crowd.
That's a good thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the older ones, and if you'll come and just shake all of their hand, and when you get to me, you'll get their little gift. So I'm gonna start with 5th grade, Luke Ponder. Luke is always respectful and willing to do what I say. He is quiet, but his smile is worth a million words. He gets along with all his peers and has a great time with them on the playground, always following the rules. And that is from Miss Frost. Next in 5th grade from Miss Bullock's class is Tommy Garcia. Tommy is very dependable. I can count on him being here, giving 100% and with a good attitude every day. He works hard to do and use all the tools and skills he is given. He is proof that following directions and trying make for success. I think my 2 4th graders aren't here, Brooklyn Bashar and 4th grader Emerson Ott. Okay? And both of them had raving things from their teachers as well. 3rd grade, Miss Westbrook, Isaiah Neal. Isaiah is a great student. He works hard on everything he does. He is kind, and he always has a smile. Also, Miss Westbrook, Devin Henderson. Devin is a great student and kind to everyone, she says. Miss Wyndham's class, Ashton Mixon. Ashton is a sweet student and a hard worker. She is also kind to everyone. Next is Siler Anderson. Siler comes to school and works hard every day. He always wants to do what is best. Second grade in Miss Norris's class is Aiden Nunn. Aiden is such a great student. He is so polite, very hardworking in class, and an awesome friend. He's always willing to help in any way he can. Also, Lily Wilson. Lily is such a sweet girl. She always has a smile on her face. She is an excellent student and always participates in class. Miss Epperson's class. 2nd grade, Mia Seals. Mia is a hard worker and gives 100% and is a very sweet friend to everyone. Next in Miss Epperson's class is Sister Rayleigh Seals. Rayleigh is a hard worker, she's dependable, and she is very kind. Then we also have Sister Gracie Seals. She's a hard worker, she's polite, and has a great attitude, and many call her friend. First grade, Miss Cole, we have Carter Kite. Carter is a hard worker and is always kind to his classmates. in Miss Carol's room, we have Judson Dumont. Very polite and helpful to everyone. He works very hard in class. Next in first grade is Ariel Hicks. Ariel is a good student. She works hard in class and always does her best. In kindergarten, we have Demi Morton. Demi is a sweet, soft-spoken little girl who loves to lend a helping hand. She is very attentive in class and always tries her best. That is from Miss Turner. Also in Miss Turner's class, we have Nicklaus Miller. Nicklaus is a hard worker and is always kind to his friends. In kindergarten in Miss Stewart's class, we have Claire Steele. Claire is a great student. She is always willing to help her classmates, and she always participates in class. Next in Miss Stewart's class is Avi Herrera. Avi is a great student. He is friendly to everyone and he works very hard. And in pre-K, from Miss Pate's class, we have Liberty Autry. Okay, well, I'll read what Miss Pate said about her. Liberty is sweet and kind, and she is a friend to all. She works very hard in class. Last but not least is our staff member of the month, which is Miss Tammy Dickens. I could not have made this year without her. It is very true. And she has worked very hard at being an instructional coach, even though we weren't really sure what that was going to look like, but we made it through for that first year, so I couldn't have done it without you.
Alright, so one of mine, she finally got here. And she's like, I'm so nervous. And it's blowing me away that she's nervous, because she is actually really talented. What, 7, 8 plays or so that you've done since last year?
Well, since last year? I'm not too sure.
Quite a few. She is amazing. She sings, she dances. It's just incredible what she did. Miss Anna Jo Briggs.
Shake your hand then.
I'm so sorry. I left one off. I didn't mean to. Miss Hudgens said Paisley Floyd was her choice for Cardinal, Soaring Cardinal. And she says Paisley has been very attentive during her lessons, which she teaches the character lessons throughout the year.
Is that everybody?
That's it. That's everybody.
So thank y'all for coming. Before you leave, we're going to get some pictures of everybody right out here. You're more than welcome to come back and listen to the board meeting, but don't feel obligated. Otherwise, have a good evening.
All right.
Next item on the agenda is public comments. No one signed up. Next item is communications.
We have none?
Moving on, number 6, administer oath of office to the newly elected board members.
That would be Mr. Melford Pierce and R.J. Norris.
Yes, sir. John, if you'll raise your right hand, please. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Solemnly swear.
that I will faithfully execute
That I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of school board trustee
of school board trustees
of the state of Texas
of the state of Texas.
to the best of my ability,
Best of my ability.
preserve, protect,
Preserve, protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Good job, gentlemen.
Welcome. Next item is reorganize the board by electing a board president, vice president, secretary, and appointing a recording secretary. This time I'll hand the meeting over to Superintendent Chris Bradshaw.
I got it. At this point, we will take nominations for board president.
I nominate Dr. Pierce.
You got first and
We got 2 nominations and a second. Any other nominations? All those in favor, you would raise your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. All right, this time we're supposed to swap seats.
That's all right.
This time, we'll continue on. Next item is vice president. Do we have any nominations for vice president?
I'll nominate R.J. Norris to be vice president.
We have a nomination for R.J. Norris. Do we have any others?
I was going to second.
Do we have a motion? We have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, raise your right hand. It is unanimous.
Move. Don't I get to go to the end?
I sure can.
Yeah. Well, there's no designated seats. Oh, is there not? No. Also on the end.
Historically, this has been vice president.
I'm over here I'm beside Rusty's lever now.
That's where you started out, wasn't it?
Back to the beginning.
No, when I interviewed, that's what he said. It's appropriate. That's right. Okay.
Next, we have a secretary. Do we have a nomination for secretary?
Nominate Terry Johnson.
We have a nomination for Terry Johnson. Any others from the floor?
I'll second that.
We have a second. We have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Next item is consent agenda.
One more item.
Oh,
We'll move on. We've got to do a recording secretary.
Thank you.
I'd recommend that we continue with Mr. Tommy Charles Van Dever.
I'll second. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Good work, Mr. Van Dever.
It's very exciting.
Close race. Highly contested.
Highly.
Next item is the consent agenda. We have the moments of the April 20th regular meeting of the board, the monthly financial report, a letter of engagement with Wolf and Henderson for the 22-23 annual audit, the MISD Child Nutrition Food Service Department Procurement Procedures Manual. Does any member have any item they want pulled to discuss? Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Next item is information items, principals report, and athletic director report.
Come on in, Miss. Now,
Okay. We have a lot go on this month. So you can look at our attendance report and our enrollment. I think we've actually gained 1 student since last month. in first grade, so we're at 41 in first grade. That gives us 232, which we are up by 7 kids from last year. And our attendance is 95.16, which is not necessarily where exactly we want it to be, but we will work on that next year. We talked about, we recognized our Soaring Cardinals for the 5th 6 weeks, and then if you look at the highlights, the spotlights, we had Camp Read a Lot was in Miss Everson's 2nd grade class, so they came in, they had camp rules, and she set up the desk. You can see they're like tents, and so they read and got to be in the classroom and had the rules about reading and not distracting others. We had our AR trips, pre-K. We only had 1 student who was able to read books and be able to take AR tests, so he got a special treat to Chuck E. Cheese with Miss Pate and Miss Kite for his reaching his goal. We had teacher and principal appreciation during this month, and so our teachers had some type of treat every day that week. We had door prizes that we drew names for, and so they really enjoyed that, and we're very thankful for them. We had Special Olympics. You see one of our students, Roman Stewart, he got not just 1, but 2 gold medals, and so in the softball throw and the 50-meter dash. And so we're very proud of him for that. Then we also have the AR trip that was kinder through 5th grade, and so we had 2 separate trips. So we had a trip in the morning that was like kinder through 1st, and then we had 2nd through 5th in the afternoon. And so those are just a few of the group pictures of the grade pictures that got to go. I think it was like 120 something students who got to go overall, like through all the grades. Then we had our leadership council was elected, and then they were sworn in. This is a picture of some of the newly elected members. And so we had our 2nd graders getting to move into 3rd grade that got to be elected. And then we have the big picture is everybody who ran, who's a part of the council. And I didn't put this in here, but we also received word that we received the TEPSA Leadership Award again. So we got that last year, and we received it again this year. We got word that we are...
TEPSA Award's Outstanding Elementary Student Council.
So,
Their work, so it's a good
yes.
award for them.
And they've put in a lot of work. So the newly elected members were named in that report, or named there for you. So they're excited to get to work next year. And then the last thing is we talked about Miss Hudgens, and she does character lessons. So she taught 7 habits of an effective student, kind of like what Stephen Covey does. And so she had them fill out something where they had to name those in order and by memory. And these 3 students here actually were able to do that correctly and name all of them. And so they got Chick-fil-A gift cards. So she had been doing that all year long. I think they did 1 per month. And then the last month they kind of just reviewed them all. So, do you have any questions? Okay, awesome.
Middle school, high school enrollment's the same as last month. Attendance is actually up a little bit right now, which that may be because of the studying and less trips being taken to different places. A few things for the highlights. Our baccalaureate Fault the Rain had an outstanding night. Mr. James Sutton talked about being a good listener for the seniors and living with the end in mind. It was a really good speech. Really enjoyed it. A lot of compliments. Matter of fact, a few people said they'd love to have him every year. It was so good. Senior awards this year, we raised over $1 million, which has been a huge increase for us. We started off at about $600,000 2 years ago, $800,000 last year, now we're over $1 million. The big help there is that we have two military, traditional military, and one other one that's going to go ROTC style, which will have all of her school paid for, pretty much. The fishing team, Graham Hawkins, Wade Pippin, received 4th out of 100 and finally got their check. It was $6,000 split between the 2 of them. We're very proud of them. Our band banquet award recipients there for their scholarship. It was a really good night. I really enjoyed it. It just amazes me at what those kids can do. It's been pretty awesome to watch them in their concerts and stuff as well. Sixth grade came home with a trophy from Six Flags the other day, or 6th and 7th grade. Mr. Barron has the boys compete in the last welding event offered throughout the year at Rains. They had to build this aerodynamic looking fire pit. It was really cool. Really, it looked like a spaceship to me there, but they had to work in a team as a group. It was not a one-man show, so it was a really good opportunity for them to learn how to work together. It was a really good deal. I liked it a lot. Our kids got a lot of good information on how to do certain things from here on out. Mr. Barron had his banquet there, and newly elected FFA officers. Some of those were in those welding caps above, and he showed a slideshow towards the end of all the different and unique things they've done over the year. Also, we had our junior high and high school award ceremony the other day, which you saw many of the citizens of the year, but there was a lot of other things that were awarded that night. Very proud of them. Our senior awards was Tuesday night, and again, a lot of scholarship money handed out, but also a lot of good times, good things that were happening there for award ceremony. Last 2 things, we have graduation coming up, and then we'll have summer school, of course, after that on those dates listed below. Anything? Any questions? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I got the athletic report. Coach Turner is with a group down in Kilgore, the East Texas Coaching Association Combine tonight. You can see the all-district for both softball and baseball. Baseball finished second in district, won their by-district game, and then lost to Frankston in the area game. You can see the first team, or the all-district teams that have been released, and then just general summer that's coming up as far as activities, 7-on-7, volleyball, basketball, softball leagues, and then also all of their summer workouts.
Next item is item 10, review and take under advisement the SHAC School Health Advisory Council recommendations for 22-23.
I gave y'all a packet from Ms. Nisi. She has given us a SHAC report. There's mine. So to put this together gives you we're required to meet 4 times a year. The first paragraph has those 4 dates that we did meet. Do you have one? Everybody got it? Overall, she discussed that we talked about post-COVID and response, the community's response to our COVID protocols, and then after COVID, they've been very pleased with. We talked about our safety and security implements as we've gone throughout the school year. We looked at both our base program, parent education, and opportunities for vaccines and other health response here at the school. One of the big tasks was they reviewed our wellness plan, which was reviewed, and then we had updates back in March to create that, as well as scoring that. So the SHAC committee discussed and recommends to the school board the following 3 items. One is to pursue having stock naloxone, which is Narcan, in place in case of the event of an opioid overdose, whether that be students and or adults. We'll be working on that through this summer. We have applied and are partnering with, hopefully, Special Health Resources for a grant that would allow both medical and mental health to be housed here on Maud in a mobile unit and set up a schedule where they can be here for both students, staff, and community members. If they get that grant, that'll be something we'll look for next year. And they recommend continuing our character and leadership development they've been impressed with. We talked about 7 habits of highly successful people and others. So that's her report. And then behind that, you can see she has more in depth as far as the Texas Mobile Imaging, as well as our report card that the subcommittee and SHAC did for our wellness policy.
Do you have any feedback on, or do you have any feedback on the folks that were trained and diagnosed, if they've done any kind of follow-up?
Several have, not everybody has, but absolutely there has been. So we had several people that did follow up on various items. Our committee and those teachers felt like that would be something to continue to come back. So we had a good report. Some people followed up and really received no major news, and some have gone on to treatments and started to do things. So we felt like it was really good, and we've seen success not only in our school but in other schools of people being diagnosed with tumors and other things as well. So we plan to continue that as long as they'll be willing to come out.
Okay, good deal.
Next item is consider and approve the SSA shared service arrangement contract for 23-24.
So I will not have a contract tonight, but what this is for our shared service agreement for Central Bowie Special Ed Cooperative between us and Redwater. We're still working a few details out that we don't have completed. I hope that I'll be able to bring a completed agreement that we can, both us and Redwater have agreed to, but as of tonight, I don't have one to present.
Just table that.
We can just table that, yes, sir.
All right, item 12, consider and approve giving the superintendent authority to extend contracts and hire employees as needed for vacant positions through the month of June.
So this is something we've done in the past. Of course, with transition and leadership coming, what I'm asking for at this point would be to give me that authority through the remainder of my time here. At that point, authority would revert back to the board, and the board could certainly make that decision to delegate it in the future if you so wish throughout the summer. But we usually do this just so that we're able to make quick decisions, and especially in hiring seasons when we're shorthanded. But that would, they would go through June 30th, and then it would revert back to the board on July 1st.
All right, any discussion? We have a motion to approve, give the superintendent authority to extend contracts and hire as needed through the month of June. A motion by Gap, we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Terry. All in favor? That's unanimous. Deliberation and possible action to select architect for the 23 MISD bond program projects and delegate authority concerning contract.
So we've got several resolutions that are going to come up related to construction. This first one is for the bond project, which would be the cafeteria, band hall renovation, and parking lot. We need to select an architect, and my recommendation would be to go with WRA Architects, who has been helping us through the bond planning process. What this is tonight is that we would select them, and you would give me permission to begin negotiating a contract. I would bring the final contract back to the board for your final approval. At that point, we'd have all costs, fees, and structures for the board to consider.
Any questions or discussion? Do we have a motion? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I move that we adopt and approve the resolution selecting.
I got a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
So just in general, with a new superintendent coming on board, would it not be better for him to be a part of that process and negotiating the contract?
If we do, we can't start any of the process until that happens. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and have that contract in place with the board so that they can begin the planning process. It's going to be, for the bond projects, approximately 4 to 5 months of planning before you guys would have that construction. But I would think we'd want to get that started sooner than later.
So is this like basic paperwork to get it started is what we're doing? We're not doing anything where we're making decisions or?
No, but the architect will not start planning or doing any of the work until we have a contract.
So this is just going to consist of, hey, you're going to do it,
This percentage
put
fee.
your name on the line?
Yep. So what we have to do as a board
This is
first in this is we have to select a contract, and then we negotiate costs. And when it comes to architectural services, cost can't be one of the things we do consider at the beginning. We will name the architect, and then we can begin to start negotiating contracts afterwards. So that would be the first step that we'd need to do, is have that. I would bring you back a contract that the board could then approve, and then they would start the planning processes, and then absolutely new superintendent would be involved in all of those.
We won't have any numbers or anything.
Just
We can't even get started on doing this. And then here in a second, we'll have the second part of this, which is the road contract, which would also need an architect. But to try to get that started sooner, we'll have a little bit different method of how we'll deliver that. But we need to select the architect first, and then the resolution is giving me permission to go ahead and start working on a contract with our attorneys, our architects, that I could bring back to the board. Once it's approved, then they can begin the process of planning.
Okay. That makes sense.
Is that good?
You know, the one thing to think about too, is the possibility that we're not going to be hiring a superintendent right now. We'd have an interim. So as much of this as we can get going.
Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of wanting him to be fully bought into the projects and we're going
Yeah.
forward.
They will be involved in the
They will.
planning processes and all of that. But this just gets the ball
But
rolling.
this is just a
so
little bit of paperwork that
Yep.
has to be done.
Has to be done
Start
first
conversations.
and get them started. And then what they're going to do is start bringing recommendations back to the school. And the board's going to have as much of that as the approval as far as those plans and all of those aspects. But they can't even start doing any of that pre-work until we have a contract in place.
And I doubt we'll see any numbers until probably mid-summer.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna be numbers.
For the bond, you won't see those, because we'll go through that in just a second. But if we could select them, and then we've got a few more items on that, and I can tell you more on how that'll look.
Good. Any other questions or discussion? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to select architect, WRA Architects. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Next, item 14, deliberation and possible action to determine select construction delivery methods for the 23 MISD bond program.
So for this, the school district has to select the delivery method of construction we feel is in our best interest. What I would recommend is us looking at construction manager at risk. What that is, if we select that process, is that we would work with an architect to develop plans. We would hire a construction manager once those plans and scope have been put out by basically putting out a bid for the best value for the district. That value includes previous relationships, previous work, can be with the district, with others. Cost is certainly part of that, but we can build those criteria however we want to. But considering that and considering us transitioning in leadership, going with this method allows us to hire a constructor that would give you a guaranteed maximum price and a timeline, and then allow us to build based on that. This would be similar to the method that we used for the technology building, for this building, for the district-wide improvements. We did a different method when we did the locker room, which the district was much more heavily involved in every contract with that. Bringing somebody brand new in there, I don't know if that's what we want to, pile on top of them. So, and then given the volatility in the market, I think having a guaranteed price that they can work under gives them some. In the past, they've the contractors that we have used have certainly come in under that price, but that would be my recommendation for this project, is to name the delivery method, which would be construction manager at risk. At this point, we're not approving any costs. We just have to name that method if we, for the board, before we go out and take bids.
I think with the length of this project, having a locked-in price would make me feel a little more comfortable. A lot can change in 2 years.
We don't know what that would be.
I think the thing that would concern me about it is that during COVID, we had some situations where there was construction manager at risk and prices changed so much that construction companies walked off, right? So they could be the kind of the devil's advocate side of it, but it does protect the school in the instance of, I would lean towards that same recommendation, that construction manager at risk for this one. What do y'all thought?
The workforce in the past.
That'll work.
Just gonna pay more.
Ken?
Most likely.
Ken?
Is there
That's the
any insurance policies out there that you can hedge against this and go with just a bill at what it costs? Now, maybe a left field here.
Your other option that you could do would be the construction manager agent, which is what we did last time, and then if costs change, you're just on the hook for whatever that is.
Whatever happens, you're on it.
You're on it, and then that's just got to have somebody here that's managing every one of those contracts throughout. So we did that before. What does get you a little bit in that with the CMA agent is your contractor can perform no self-work. So if it's a small job, they can't go out there and do it. They got to hire somebody to come out here and do. And we ended up having to cut some stuff out of the locker room because it wasn't big enough for anybody to come out here and do. So we ended up changing some of that. But that is one thing that with previous construction managers we've used, they were able to do self-work and didn't have to hire everybody for every little thing. But those are your two options. Again, at this point, I'd recommend that we try the at-risk, put them at risk versus us. And again, this will be for the band hall locker room, or band hall cafeteria and parking lot for just the bond projects.
So, just so I'm completely on board and I don't completely understand. One is we pay as we go, just try to keep, each item, bid every item out with the subcontract, the contractor. The other is we say they give us an amount and they have to build it in that inside of that number, which of course I'm sure that they pad that.
But you'll take,
Absolutely, they're gonna pay.
and they will, and you'll take bids on that, so the competitive price is at the beginning of that. That'll be part of your evaluation, the
All right, so
criteria
the-
that you build into. So you
What-
bid all that at the very beginning versus the next one, which is, like what we did is we hired TMG last time to be our agent. We agreed to a fee, and then everything that came in, they gave us a price they thought it would be, and then it was well above what they thought it was gonna be as we started hiring contractors, and we just had to pay the difference.
So on that was, my other question would be, is when they bid it, they bid and indicate what we're gonna get for each.
So our architect builds a
Do you understand what I'm
scope.
trying to say? We're gonna get a good line item. It may cost this. We're gambling that it's gonna cost we're gonna be able to get it in and make this amount on it.
So the architect will build the scope and what level of quality, all of those things will go into it. And every contractor is gonna bid on that, give you a price, a timeline. It won't be above this, and then we value, and we can add in our values and criteria, which will come up here in a minute. We set all of those to allow us to pick the best value for the district, which would include price, also include reputation. If you go to like competitive sealed proposals, you got to take the lowest one, regardless of quality, whatever it is. You just got to take the lowest price. So there's no consideration of is it good work or not. Under this, we set that so that we know reputation as well as previous work with the district. You can set it at, so you can take into account others. So there's different methods that come with pros and cons.
Okay, that's making sure I understood.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to select the construction delivery method of construction manager at risk?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next item is deliberation and possible action to delegate authority to the superintendent concerning the 23 MISD bond program projects.
So what this allows, if the board so chooses, would give me the authority to begin setting those criteria for the evaluation, putting out RFQs, all related ads, business ads, anything that we need basically to get this process moving as far as starting to select those. Again, I'm not going to select those. We'll come back to the school board. When we look at criteria in that, we can set up a committee that would actually go through there and make sure that it meets the value of what the district would be. My recommendation would look back at the criteria we used previously and use that to build and set criteria for the construction manager selections. And then all of that would come back to the school board for final approval.
Any questions or any discussion?
I don't quite understand that.
So we selected a delivery method, which is construction manager at risk. So to determine the best value for the district, it'll include, we've got to set criteria, so that'll include.
So you're gonna set the criteria?
We would set the criteria. This would allow me to set that criteria. It'll allow me to set bids where we can request proposals. And once that time comes, we've still got to get some stuff from our architect, but once that time comes, it would allow the superintendent to be able to do those things, set the criteria, request the bids and proposals, and then be able to bring that selection back and recommendation to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not giving me approval to build, select, approve all of that. It's just allowing me to do all of those things necessary to bring back to you.
To bring all the things.
To bring it
You
all
can't
back.
go out and build it.
Nope.
Have everybody build it.
I'm not approving any prices, I'm not approving plans, all of that's gonna be up to you as a school
And this
board.
is all-
This is just giving me permission to do all the things that are necessary to bring it back to the board.
Are you planning on doing this, or are you planning
I'm
on?
gonna get as much as I can do it.
And at any time, can any of this be changed?
As far as,
Like if we wanted, if the new guy or gal, it doesn't have a lot of brilliant experience with construction.
Well, that's one reason we're going through this.
that's why we're trying to get it all now, is just to make sure that.
We're going for there's less involved.
So what the big thing will be, hopefully, is that we'll have to select those criteria. All that'll be set up. If it's not ready to select by the time July 1 hits, all the processes will be in place. And all we'd have to do is just have that evaluated and be able to bring the recommendation back.
All right.
So that's the goal, is just to try to get as much of that part done. This isn't including any price selection. All of that's going to come back to you as a board to make decisions.
So,
Hopefully by the time the new person makes it all, they're going to bring us the excuses of when that's taking so long.
there you go.
So I hope to have as much of that done as possible.
All right, I'm trying to break it down, make sure I understand everything we're voting on. So this is so that you can get bids, what is this?
This is so that I could set the criteria for bid selection. Put out any advertisements that we have to select those, any of the requests for proposals that would need to go out so that we can start taking those bids.
So we know exactly.
Is there a standardized?
What I'm going to look at is using the one we previously used, is where we'd start.
How heavily do we want to weight reputation? How heavily do we want to weight former? And how heavily do we want to weight cost? Is that kind of correct? How much weighting are we giving to each one of these?
It'd be just like a job applicant, you're gonna rate them, by their skills
Okay.
reference.
So we would use probably the very similar one to what we've used previously.
So we would, when you bring these back, you're gonna have them rated as this is your primary, this is the one you think's a 1, this is a 1-2, this is a 1-3.
Based on the best value for the district. And that's basically set up on that criteria.
Sometimes the cheapest, not the biggest.
Find it to be always.
Can we build in there, not the company that did Redwater?
We can put that in there. That's where you actually go into what you put in there is reputation. And in essence, once we select a bidder under this process, if a company wants to know why they weren't selected, we have to have this criteria built in place, and this is why we selected this company versus yours, and they score all of that out. But for example, when we did these buildings, each construction manager submitted a packet that had references, previous work, jobs they had done, total price of it, guaranteed maximum price, estimated timelines. You can have all that built in, and you load all that into a spreadsheet. It spits out scores basically, and whoever's going to score the best on that is who.
So you use a computer program to
Well,
decide.
I'm just saying Excel spreadsheet. You just stick it all in there
I know, I'm
because
just,
it's weighted.
but it's still, it's a weighted.
What's your hang up? I mean, what is, are you doing
I'm
something?
caught up on weighting reputation, like, how do you weight reputation? How do you weight?
You can, if you just take reputation, you gotta put value with it.
I can
Once
see
you put the dollar
cost.
with the reputation.
I can see that quality of work, quality.
One of the things
Well,
was,
if I have 10 projects,
if they've done work with us in the past, how well we like them.
yeah, and if you've done 10 projects, did all of them get?
How much work
completed?
have you done
How much
for schools?
satisfaction did you have out of it?
I'm caught up in how this is how that's scientific. You get what I'm trying to
Well,
say?
it's not
like-
scientific, it's,
No,
it's,
If the crime rate is here,
We gotta show what we're doing, so why
The way it allows you to
else?
have is that you can weight more than just cost. Because if you just select lowest cost, then you can't take anything else into consideration, and it may not be your best value.
Okay, yes, I'm good with it, whatever.
That's what it is.
That makes sense.
Kind of protects us.
I got it.
Good?
I can bring you an
it just
example.
gives us the ability to pick who we want to pick.
county.
Pretty much.
If you're right.
When we do a large commercial real estate construction, money on a fixed price, of this magnitude, but they're gonna pad it, better be able to pick who you want to pick, and you're gonna pay for it. Before we approve a loan, we do so. You're bringing it all to, and we're having to go through all this, because we're approving the contract. And then recorded secret. You're good. Double recorded. You're good.
Same process.
All right. No other discussion? Do we have a motion to delegate the authority to the superintendent concerning the bond program projects?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by RJ, we have a second.
I second.
Second by Ryan, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Deliberation and possible action to determine the prevailing wage rate for the 23 bond program projects.
As part of any capital project that we have to do, we have to set a prevailing wage rate, which is based on the U.S. labor rate for Bowie County. So that was attached in that packet provided to us. But basically, it sets the wage rate that we will pay, or the contractors have to pay, for every subcontractor that they hire.
Same thing we do with the fence.
Yep. So we have to do that for any of these projects. So I've got the recommendation in there that's based on the U.S. Labor Department. Do what?
Okay, I just don't make no sense.
Yeah.
You go in there, there's a whole packet of it. It's got every trade and what range you have to pay them. You can't pay below this, you have to pay this. And part of that is to make sure at the end of this project, we can't be sued because a subcontractor was paying below that minimum wage or whatever that would be. So, anyway, we have to set it.
So the rules are there, we're just rubber stamping.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's just too simple. Any other discussion? Do we have a motion to adopt and approve the resolution to determine the prevailing wage rate for the 23 MISD bond program project?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Cap. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. And deliberation and possible action to select architect. So now we're moving to the driveway.
Now we're doing the driveway.
Okay.
Very similar to the driveway.
All right.
So we got to do the same thing again. We got to name an architect.
Maybe this will go a little faster. I think Aaron, you good?
It does change in a minute. It will change in a minute, but I would recommend WRA as our architect for the new driveway project.
Do we have any discussion or questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A motion, a gap to select the architect. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Next is item 18. Deliberation and possible action to determine and select construction procurement method for the new driveway project.
So for the new driveway project, our recommendation in this resolution is for a job order contract, which would be similar to what we did with the fence, which would allow us to select a contractor and then actually take bids and then select that contractor for the best price. Reason for that is it's a much simpler construction project and we need to move quicker to get it going. So if we can do this, the first thing would be to select that method. The next one's going to be allowing me to negotiate again a contracting price and bring that back to the board. So 18 is just selecting job order contracting as the procurement method.
Contract. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution selecting job order contracting as procurement method for the new driveway project?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Did you vote right there?
Yeah, I voted.
Okay, thanks. Number 19.
Yeah, 19.
Deliberation and possible action to select job order contractor and delegate authority to the superintendent concerning the new driveway project.
So this would allow us to I want to see one other thing on this one. So what this would be allow us to do is to select with Ideal Construction, formerly known as TMG, become our contractor, and then bid out a contract for best price for us. So basically, we would select them and then allow me to delegate the authority to me to negotiate the best contract with them for the driveway.
Have you talked to Mike?
I have.
How quick can you get it?
As soon as we can get this thing contracted, so he can move some stuff around. and
He'll start.
get all that. So he's got to get a few plans from our architects, so we've got to get
Are
them.
we gonna be able to see those plans prior to, or
Yes.
have any input?
I hope so. We gotta figure out what.
We've got some things we've got to do on
Are
that.
we bidding this at all?
He will with subcontractors,
Okay.
and then give us the
And
price.
then give us prices.
And then, so the job order contracting will be through the TIPS program, which, Rusty, as you know, you'll go through there, so they've already been vetted for a lot of these prices, and then we can negotiate.
Usually it's
about 3 to
5%.
Yeah. So you'll have a little bit of a pay on that, but it'll still allow us to negotiate, but it allows us to move much quicker than having to do the full bids on that part. But yes, the plans will come first, but we know one is, the big thing, if we can get started, in my opinion, is the main road back here that we know we're going down. In the summertime, before all our traffic hits, we need to try to get as much of that done as we can. The backside of this stuff will have a little bit more time, because we still got to do surface testing, soil testing, where can we move that in behind there, and then where's that going to try to come out here. But yes, absolutely, there's still some decisions to be made, but I think primarily if we can get started down there, because our traffic for most of the year will still come through the campus, but if we can go ahead and get most of that road done in the summertime is our first step, so.
Okay.
Definitely need to be in there, increase the speed in which the building is built. Especially when you
Yes.
start back to school.
Yep. So it won't all be completed in the summertime for sure, they'll be working, but if we can get that part done, we can work behind the school, do a lot of that.
Lay that gravel,
No,
let it run.
just getting here.
Gravel road, that's all. Buster half down just a minute.
He'd
Have
be
it
here
graded
tomorrow.
out in half a day, he'd be back.
He'd be here tomorrow.
About SB2, gonna be like concrete.
Call Epperson, get some SB2, it'll be graded in a minute.
Any other discussion? We have a motion to adopt and approve the resolution selecting the job order contractor and delegating authority to superintendent concerning the new driveway project.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Yes. We're on 20, right?
Yes, we're on 20.
Deliberation and possible action to determine the prevailing wage rate for the new driveway project. This is the same.
Same thing.
Rusty's got a question.
Come on, Rusty.
All right. Do we have any discussion? Do we have a motion to approve the prevailing wage rate for the new driveway project?
I'll make a motion.
Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a motion by Gap. Do we have a second? Second by Rusty. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you. Yep. You like.
Next item is the superintendent's report.
All right, I've got some Booster Club reports that y'all can, if I'd like to, I'll give you Ag, Booster Club, reports. So front paragraph kind of gives you the overall, the balance at the end of last year was 5784. Over the year, they made a deposit of 2830. And at the end of this year, they will have a balance of 4,625.65. And the second page is expenses. Just take a look there. Athletic Booster Club.
He gonna eat good.
Always have. I'm taking these.
I don't know if y'all noticed it, if anybody that went to the Ag Bank with 90% of the pictures had food in their hands.
I thought something was on fire when I drove up there.
All right, so athletic report, at the beginning balance, this time last year, the balance was $28,076. Through the end of the year, their ending balance is now $36,136. I know they're starting to consider purchase items for next year. You can see the major expenses listed down there in the bottom left of what they've spent. Our Booster Club, certainly Athletic Booster Club does a very good job and has for some time. COVID was a little hard on them those couple of years, but they certainly have kind of rebounded on those, so we certainly appreciate all their time and effort as well. This is the band report.
Four people on this. Oh, we got that down. My bad. Sorry. Thought you threed me again.
Do what?
Thought you threed me again.
No, I may have. Sometimes I do that. Beginning of last year, they started with a balance of $4,445. You can see expenses and deposits. Their ending balance currently is over $10,000, but there are some of these expenses that have not fully been expended yet out of that. But a couple years ago, our band boosters were certainly not depositing near as much as they currently are. So I feel like they've done a good job getting money back into to their booster accounts. We certainly appreciate all of those boosters. They're volunteers, and they do a very good job, and they spend a lot of time up here and work hard. And like in any booster club, many times it's only a handful of people that do most of the work, so I certainly appreciate all they do for our kids, and all that they, time that they spend. Next, we've got graduation, which is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The big dilemma, jacket or shirt. Make sure y'all get that figured out.
We got it worked out.
All right. Tomorrow, Miss Holly, we got the breakfast starting at 8:30 for anybody that wishes they would be there. Cut off shirts and jeans.
Rusty was looking at me, I just told him to wear
Belly
t-shirts.
shirts.
1980s.
He got the
shirts.
Out here behind the elementary, we had a water leak. We dug down there and found a pipe, thought we found it, couldn't get to it, called the plumber out. Wasn't the right pipe, it was way up under the sidewalk, so they had to cut that sidewalk up and dig it up. Bobby's coming out this week. As soon as it dries out just a little bit more, he'll pour the rest of that concrete and get all that kind of cleaned up.
What was the situation, low pipe, shifted?
Yeah, it had a small cut, a PVC pipe under that concrete. We just found it was bubbling up out of the ground and running down the sidewalk, so we dug down and found a pipe, and we were like, well, there it is, because we could see it coming out. But there was a conduit and another drain running through there, and we just couldn't get to it, so we had Fox come out, and I thought, man, we found it, it'll be easy. Yeah, it wasn't a pipe. It was back up underneath that one, and it had a small, just
You was out there
wore
digging?
out in there. Do what?
You was out there digging?
Shifted.
No, I was watching.
I heard I just wondered.
We weren't secretaries, we all.
I was just wondering.
Was it PC's old, or was the ground shifting?
Kind of like when you say we arrested somebody.
There was a bunch of stuff under there together. At one point, we thought it was rubbed together because it was all kind of on top of each other. But
It's like been there, done it.
I didn't get down there when they got it. They just told me it was way back under there, and when they hit it, they cut it. But it had a small hole in it somehow, but it wasn't busted from the ground, so I'm assuming it may have just over time. We're not even 100% sure what it goes to. We cut off the elementary, it was not the elementary. So, thank you. Miss Howe knows that. It was right when field days came in and everyone went to the restroom at the same time when it was cut off, and RJ got an earful. So, but he should get that fixed next week, I think. We've got some busted glass that'll be fixed as well next week. We've got a couple pre-K windows that have frosted over, similar to what we had in our sign swing they're going to replace. And then I think we have 3 windows that have some kind of crack or something that they're going to
Get one of the old gym.
They hardened it up.
We got one in the rock gym we had repaired that got busted out. Yeah, but these we hadn't been able to do because they're going to have to disrupt classes, so we've just held off. But they're going to come next week and get all those fixed.
Open spots will be fine.
Service forward.
Service breakfast, 8:30 in the morning.
Is it?
That's all I got on that.
All right, we'll be going into executive session at 7:39 p.m. We'll be discussing personnel, according to Texas Government Code Section 551.